Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and this is my daughter Sarah, and this is our new puppy. This is Sophie. Sophie is 9 weeks old. She's a Pomeranian, and she's very sweet, still teething. She likes to chew on my finger here, and but she's doing real well. We've had her a week, and yeah, she's been a really good puppy. This is Sarah's dog. Now, do you want to take her? Let me see if I can get her to look at the camera a little better. There she is. She's real small, but she's doing really well, and we're real happy, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can take her.
Okay.
There you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing Sarah's new puppy. Her name is Sophie. We got Sophie a week ago because our little dog Molly passed away in July. It happened suddenly. We thought we'd have a couple more years with her. She was 13 years old, and life expectancy for Maltese puppies is between 13 and 15 years. But she had been really healthy, but so we thought we'd had a couple more years. But I took her into the vet because she started bleeding around a tooth, and the vet and I both thought she had a bad tooth and it needed to come out. So they scheduled surgery for 2 days later, and she put her on antibiotics and a painkiller in the meantime, and that night she went really bad. She was really groggy from the pain pills, we thought, but when I came home from work, she was upstairs, and we have her upstairs blocked off so that she doesn't go up there by herself, and she somehow got through the block. We just had laundry baskets set up, and she was in my sewing room here, and she liked to lay in here when I was sewing, so she went someplace where she felt comfortable, and she was bleeding more, and so I carried her downstairs because I wanted to take her out so she could go to the bathroom, and was heading down the stairs and didn't quite get all the way down, and she had a seizure. And so I called the vet and asked to bring her in. The vet we have has evening hours, so that makes it really nice because I got home between 4:30 and 5, and so they were able to get her in an hour later. And between the time I left, which I left like within half an hour to get to the vet, she had one more seizure. And they had drawn blood that morning, and lab results were not back. There was a different vet on staff that evening, and she said there's something going on besides a bad tooth. But she didn't know until we got the lab results back, and so I went ahead and I took her back home, and she wanted me to stay with her during the night to observe for seizures, and because they don't have staff overnight, and but she did tell me that depending on what the labs came back, she said I'd have to make a decision really quick as far as emergency care. She may have to go up to the emergency vet clinic, which is about 35-40 miles away, so it's not close. So anyway, took her back in the morning, and she hadn't had any bleeding during the night. She slept well, no seizures, but they wanted to observe her during the day themselves for seizures, and she called me around noon and said she hadn't had any seizures, but they noticed some bruising, and where they had given her, they gave her a B12 shot as well as drawing blood the day before, and she wanted to know if I had seen any bleeding during the night. I said no, she hasn't bled anymore, and she said, well, we're going to shave around the site where we drew the blood, which they go for the jugular now, which I just hate that. I hate it when they draw blood from the jugular. And we're going to mark it and see if it spreads, because something's causing her to bleed, causing bruising and stuff. Not a good sign. And within 5 minutes she called back and she said her whole chest is covered with blood, not outside but under the skin. So she's bleeding internally, and she said, you know, your option is you need to get her into the emergency vet. But the cost was astronomical. It was between $5,000 and $6,000 just to get her in the door, and that's not counting treatment and blood transfusions and everything else. And so I said, well, will this fix her? Will it cure her? And she said, no, it will stop this episode, but she evidently has an autoimmune disease and it's attacking her platelets, because her platelet count, the labs came back and the platelet count was only 6,000. And for a dog, it's real similar to a human. It should be 175,000 at the lowest. That's the lowest normal. So something was destroying her platelets. So she said it would, you know, tide her over for a while, but it would happen again. So, and we really, at this point, since it had been 2 days since she started bleeding, we were already too late. So we went in as a family and had her put to sleep. So Molly was Sarah's Molly was Sarah's emotional support dog, and she's actually done really well without a dog the last couple of weeks, but she's doing so much better now with Sophie. So anyway, we put off looking for another dog for over a month, and then I started looking for a dog for her, because Sarah really needs something to take care of. And we have not been without a pet, my husband and I. We haven't been without a pet for over 41 years. We've had we started out with cats, and then we added dogs. We had, our last cat lived to be 18 years old. Our dogs, of course, we have never had a dog that lived that long. We had one that lived to be 15 years old. We had one that lived to be like 8. And then our two big dogs lived to be 10 and 11. Of course, you know, big dogs don't live as long as small dogs. So, and then we've had cats, you know, in between that. But yeah, we've not had a pet. So it was just hard. So we wanted a small dog because I just prefer small dogs over large dogs. You know, we've had both, but and besides that, it's a small dog is a dog that Sarah can manage, and especially with the rental we're in, we don't have a fenced-in yard, So it's easier for a small dog because they don't need as much space to get exercise as a large dog does. So we were looking for small dogs, and I looked at the humane societies around us, and they're all large dogs. They're German Shepherds, they're Pit Bulls, they're Labrador Retrievers. They're mixes, but they're all large dogs. So we, struck out that way. So I started looking for, spreading the circle that I was looking in and looking for small dogs. And I did find a dog rescue place. I think they had cats too. About 100 miles from us, and they had some Chihuahua puppies. And our little dog who lived to be 15, he was a Chihuahua. So I thought, okay, well, we'll go that route. So I put in an application, didn't hear anything back from them. And in the meantime, I kept checking back on their website, and the dogs were just gone just like that. they were purchased. Somebody came in, adopted them. So I just kept looking, and then I found lots of breeders, but their dogs, they want $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000, some even $5,000 for a dog, which was not in our price range. So we just kept looking, and then I found a breeder about 30 miles from us who had Pomeranians, and she had a reasonable price for them. The puppy's a little bit younger than what I was expecting. I thought, most breeders around here, they keep the puppies, well, I think at 8 weeks is when they list them, but a lot of them, they keep them until 12 weeks and then list them for sale. She listed her Sophie at 8 weeks, and so I texted her. She had her phone number on there, so I texted her, and we texted back and forth one morning, last Monday morning, and she said she was coming to town and she'd bring the puppy if we wanted to see her. So we met and just fell in love immediately, and so now we have Sophie. So she's been really good. She's active and playful, and she eats well. She's growing, and she's not noisy. She's squeaky. She can bark. We've heard her bark a couple of times, but she doesn't bark at people or things or dogs or anything like that. And she'll bark when you play with her sometimes, not often, but mostly she squeaks. So she's been a lot of fun. So she's really cheered up a lot this past week. She did pretty good. I mean, she went through the grieving process just like I did, and we still, she still doesn't want me to talk about Molly in front of her, is like what happened to her. She doesn't want to hear that. But Sarah is a special needs adult. She's an adult, and she needs an emotional support animal. So we couldn't go too long without a dog. So and there for a while she said she didn't want one. She wanted to just be the only kid in the family, is what she said. So we didn't hurry, but it got to the point where I knew we needed to start looking and find a puppy for her. So we have Sophie, and she's doing really good, and she's up to date on her shots, but we're going to take her to our own vet next week. So we'll see what the vet has to say about her, and make sure she's good and healthy, and schedule her future shots. So she'll need shots until she's, I think, 16 weeks old before we go into the once a year shots. So it's expensive, but it's not, but it's worth it. It's not too bad, but it's worth it. So anyway, that's the story of Sophie. Another thing I wanted to update you on is our house. We have started the building. We have the foundation dug, and the basement walls are up, and we've got water to the house, but the water company has not put the meter in, so we can't use the water yet, but it is hooked up. and we have a yard hydrant, a water hydrant in the yard. The electricity is there, it's hooked up, and our builder is coming this week at some point. He is going to, he doesn't live, well, he lives kind of nearby, but it's far enough away that he's not going to drive home every night. He has a camper that he's going to put on our property and work 4 days a week and then go home for like a 3-day weekend and then come back and work 4 days. So I think that's reasonable. And he thinks he can get the house dried in 6 weeks, which is really good. So we're looking forward to that. Now our the downside to building a house is the cost, and we had everything worked out where we thought we could do this and not have a house payment when we're done. Well, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. We are going to have a house payment. How much is going to depend on if we can sell our acreage down in southwest Missouri. We tried a year and a half ago. It was on the market. I guess we tried 2 years ago. It was on the market for a year and a half, and we got really low ball offers on it, you know, like 10% what it was worth, and it's not going to help us any to sell it at that price, so we just hung on to it. So now we need to find a good realtor. What we have found is realtors down in that area, they want to list your property, but they don't want to do the work to sell it. They just want to list it and then collect the money when it sells. So they're not into promoting your property. So we need to find somebody who is willing to do the work to sell the property. So we haven't found that person yet, but hopefully we will. We're going to talk to the realtor we used up here to sell our house up here in central Missouri and see if she knows anybody down there who's a go-getter and can get that sold. So that will help a lot, but we will still have a house payment. So that's, you know, COVID and the inflation. I mean, everything is so inflated. I mean, it's just ridiculous at how much anything costs. You know, my grocery bill used to be $400 a month. It's $1,000 a month now, so it's more than doubled. So, and so has, you know, the cost of building materials and labor. And when we looked a year and a half ago at building, we talked to our friend who is a builder, and you know, people were telling us, well, just wait, you know, the cost of everything will go down. He said, it's not going to go down. He said, once they go up, they don't go down. He said, it may stabilize at some point. He said, it's not going to go down. So waiting isn't really going to help you any. And I think he's right, because the cost is just going up. It's not coming down, and it's not even staying the same. It's going up. So we're not doing ourselves any favor by waiting. So we decided to go ahead and start. But another issue is there's always hidden cost. Even though we got estimates from everybody, there's cost in there that they don't tell you about. And you know, part of it is, we underestimated the amount of material we need, which we expect, that kind of thing. Because sometimes you just can't tell sometimes until you get in there and you start working. But others, it's like there's fees to put me on a retainer, and then there's a fee to schedule me, and then there's the cost of doing the job. So those first two fees were things we weren't counting on. Our log home kit, the price of that has gone up, even though we thought we had that stabilized. When we put it in layaway, we thought the price was going to stay there. Well, it's gone up. So I actually am going up to the company tomorrow and talk to them and verify a few things, because we did find some discrepancies in our package from what we signed up for and then what they were billing us for. They double billed us on part of the package, but we caught it, and they were apologetic. You know, it was just something they missed. It was an option that we went for, and they included it in our price, but didn't take it off of the options list. So when they sent us a bill, I asked them for an invoice, a final invoice, and then they had that down there as, well, do you want these options? It's like, we already put those in the contract. Those are in there. And they're like, well, we'll have to look into that. And they found out that the most expensive one was in there. One that's not quite as expensive was not put in. So we got to pay for that. But it's not a really large amount of money, but our construction loan is very, very tight. And now we are over budget already, and we're just getting started, and we're over budget by quite a bit. So that means we got to cut somewhere. And husband and I were talking this evening, and it's like, I don't know where else to cut, because we didn't go high end on anything. We went pretty inexpensive on things. So I'm not sure where we're going to cut. So we're going to have to look at things really closely as we go along and see where we can cut. And most likely it's going to mean we're going to have to put in more sweat equity than what we had planned, which is going to be difficult because my husband works 2 jobs. I work a job, plus I do YouTube videos. So I have basically 2 jobs too. So I don't know how we're going to do this, but I'm just going to have to trust that it's going to work out. So that's it for the update on the house. I did start a YouTube channel on the build. It's called Log Cabin in the Woods, if you want to see that, and I'll put a link in the description box below where you can watch that, and I'll put up videos as we go along. There's just 1 video up right now. I'm working on a second video, and we should be getting more footage next week because they are supposed to start putting the subfloor down on the basement level. So it's a walkout basement. So we should be getting some footage of that, hopefully, if we can get some time off work and go out there and watch them as they're building. Otherwise, it'll just be kind of an update as we go in. Okay, this is what's been done since the last time we were here. And so might be the best we can do, because they're going to be working Monday through Friday. We also work Monday through Friday. So we'll be going out either in the evenings or on the weekend and kind of catching up on how things are going. But so far, things are going pretty well. I think we're maybe a little bit over on our plumbing estimate, probably a little bit over on our excavation estimate, because they had to put in more gravel than what we planned for the basement. The garage, the floor of the garage, because our garage, it wound up being a big hole for some reason. I'm not sure. I guess it was just the way the land was laying. Anyway, a couple more truckloads of gravel were needed than what the excavator guy had estimated. So that'll be an additional cost. So I know we'll get through it somehow. I just don't know how at this point, but hopefully it'll all come together as we move along. So anyway, that is what is going on with us at this moment, and I am working on more blocks. I'm trying to get ahead on videos on quilt blocks. I'm switching over to 16 and 8-inch blocks, and what I'm wanting to do is to combine those 2 different sizes in a quilt to see how that works out. It'll be a little bit different of a sampler block than what I've done. So we'll see how that goes. And I do have a quilt that I'm working on right now. It's a layer cake quilt, and it uses the full 10-inch squares for the blocks. They're cut and pieced, but it's, you take a 10-inch square and you cut it into these pieces and you use all of it, so there's no waste out of your 10-inch square. So that one's interesting. I'm almost done with it. I've got the piecing done. The blocks are all sewn together. I need to put the borders on, and we'll see how that goes. So I'll have some video on that, and I am also considering opening an Etsy shop and selling patterns for things like this quilt that I'm working on now, the layer cake quilt, so that you can get the full pattern instead of just a pattern for just one block. So you'd have the full pattern with all the fabric requirements and, you know, step-by-step instructions. So if I can get that started, then I'll have a third job. Anyway, yeah, that's life. Anyway, I think that's it. We're doing well. We're healthy. We've avoided illnesses all year long, so we're doing good that way. My husband and my daughter had COVID last year. I don't know if it was around this time or like a month later. I can't remember if it was September or October. It was sometime last fall. So far, we've not had any issues since then, but health-wise, we're doing okay. So nerve-wise, emotionally, we're a little uptight at the moment because of the house building and the cost. But I'm afraid that's just the way it's going to be. So anyway, I think that's it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.